Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Broaden Your Perspective podcast, where Johnny Sue, your host, sits down and talks with the individuals I meet along my path as an undergraduate student. Currently, I'm a third-year student studying in the Science and Business program, specializing in biochemistry. Waterloo's co-op program gives me the opportunity to do 5 internships. Join me as I talk with fellow students, professors, entrepreneurs, doctors, athletes, and much more about their journey and experiences. Hopefully, you can learn something from this episode and truly broaden your perspective on life, family, work, whatever it may be. Without further ado, here we go. So I guess I just want to talk. So something that I feel like stood out to me right from the get-go when we first met was the reason why you are vegetarian. And that might be totally random, but I've told you this
Yeah.
before, like that part of you just, I don't know, sticks out to me for some reason. But talk to me about why you're vegetarian and how did you come
Y-
about deciding to be a vegetarian?
Yeah, so I do get that question a lot. Funny coincidence, I actually kind of became vegetarian on accident. Like I knew it was something that I would like to be, but like everybody else, it'd be hard to make the transition. But coincidentally, I
Yeah.
went 2 weeks without eating meat, and that was when I realized, like, oh, this is a feasible lifestyle for me. Um, and I kind of started for that reason. That meat consumption is
Wait.
really harmful to the environment, as many
Yeah.
people know. So I thought I would try it out then after that 2 week period. And since then, I'd say I've had like a total mental shift about it. Now I really have like the notion that if we don't need to eat animals, because I've seen myself that we really don't, um, this might sound out there, but like what gives us the right to eat them? Because animals are intelligent and loving creatures just like us. And what makes
Right.
us look at a dog like a best friend and a pig like a meal or a breakfast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. That's
now it's
great.
more about being the change like that I want to see in the world because I do think it's the future. Uh, Less meat consumption is the route that humanity will go, in my opinion.
Yeah. So what was that 2 week event that made you not have to eat meat?
Yeah, I just had a lot of pasta that week, pretty much, but to describe it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, this isn't that bad." And then since then, obviously, I've diversified my diet to include all the necessary nutrients that I wasn't getting before. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
this guy's just fueled by pasta for the past 2 years.
I, I was energized, man. I was carbo loading for a week straight.
Yeah, sweet, cool.
Yeah.
No, I just found it, like, very, because I'm the same way, right? Like, I tend to think, or I know that I'm, like, an advocate for, like, environmental sustainability, and I talk about these big, dreams of nuclear fusion and solving that and bringing that to commercialization, but it's like the biggest problem we're facing right now is just all the waste coming from maintaining our cows and whatnot. And so it's like,
Hmm.
well, this is one step that I can take towards solving the problem, but I haven't been able to do that yet. I've been trying, but
Yeah.
it's tough, but you're really motivating, inspiring me to try to make that switch.
Yeah, I'm
But
glad. I hope I can do that for a lot of people. I would also
yeah.
recommend there's a lot of like fake meat products, faux meat, that does provide the necessary protein that we need for our diet. Uh, so
Right.
just checking out what's out there. A lot of these products, in my opinion, do even taste better than meat. They've got a more consistent texture to them. But
Right.
personal opinions. Just see what's
Yep.
out there. And
So,
yeah.
how would you describe your exchange term? How'd you find that
Uh,
in Singapore?
an absolute blast, and it might not have been as school focused as it should have been, but I
Yeah,
did also learn a lot there, taking classes in um, a different part of the world where they have a different focus. I got to learn about a lot about local culture in one of my classes, as well
yeah,
as other Asian cultures like South Asia. Learned a lot about South Asia. It was overall just a whole wave of new cultural experiences, from the food to the people to the way that the city even worked, going downtown or going on all the trips that we went on and seeing how people live in different countries, even within the region. It was it opened up my mind to the way
Yeah.
I think of other groups of people. Not to mention that I made incredible friends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Was this like your first international experience? Like, are you somebody who's done a lot of previous international exchanges before, or always like venturing out there? Was this kind of your first leap into going out somewhere crazy that you've never been to before?
Yeah, so I think that question has to do with why I did go to Singapore. I've been to Europe 3 times, done a lot of the major countries there in Western Europe.
Yeah,
So I wanted to get a new experience and throw myself out there, which is why I chose Southeast Asia, Singapore.
yeah,
Um, and I think Singapore had a greater contrast to the United States than Europe does, which is something that I was looking for, and I was glad I got to push myself to achieve experiencing there.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Um, Best highlights from studying abroad. Oh, just to throw in a quick background information. Neil and I were roommates when we stayed at Utown. Utown was the name of one of the student residences. Or actually, no, Utown's like the name of this. I don't even know how you describe it. Like an aggregated campus of different residences. It was like a whole little town, pretty much, of different student residences. We had a gym. We had two massive cafeterias, a lot of different like restaurants spread across
Mhm.
Utown. We also had like a huge library there, as well as like study spaces and stuff. So it was pretty much like a town that you wouldn't need to leave because you had everything that you could possibly want in there. But we stayed at Utown Residence, which was like the student dorms that was, I want to say, most popular among international students. Like I feel like our entire
Mhm.
building, which was what 20 something floors, was like all international students except for
Yeah,
some of them that were like PhD or master students. But quick background information on that.
yeah.
But
Do
yeah, no,
they,
best highlights for you from studying abroad.
yeah, I was
Do
gonna
they what?
say, do
Sorry.
they have like a campus life area, like that U-Town feel at Waterloo anywhere?
I would say absolutely not, because Waterloo's.
Mhm.
I'll send you a picture, and I encourage people to Google what
Yeah.
Waterloo residences look like. But it is nowhere near what Singapore looks like. We just have, I mean, we have where I stayed at a residence called Village One, and they kind of made it like a village. There was like small study spaces. All the different residences were like interconnected in this network of buildings, and it was
Mhm.
all centralized around our one like massive cafeteria. But in terms of aesthetic looks and
Mhm.
cleanliness of the facilities and whatnot, like Singapore just blows Waterloo away by far.
Uh,
Yeah. What
yeah,
about
I
at
hope,
University of Minnesota?
yeah, not as nice, definitely not as nice, and the the buildings we have in Minnesota are only 4 or 5 stories tall, so it's doesn't have the effect of, 10, 25-story buildings spread in a circle.
Yeah.
I hope other campuses can view Singapore or NUS as an example for how it should be because I really enjoyed what we had there.
Yeah. And like it was really cool because it's like all these buildings in a circle. In the middle, there's just like this huge like green patch, just like a green field. And like the most wholesome activities would happen in there like every night. Like there'd just be groups of people sitting there just chatting, having a picnic, or like throwing a frisbee
Yeah,
around or playing a little game of football or whatnot. But it
yeah,
was like
sitting around a
everything
candle.
in Singapore. Yeah, sitting around a candle or just lying there on the grass at like 4 a.m. in the morning, also as well. But it's just like
Yeah.
everything. I don't know if you noticed this, but everything in Singapore was kept to like pristine conditions all the time. Like the
Mhm.
flowers, the little trees that were planted there were all cut in perfect shape. There's seemed to be always somebody mowing the lawn to making sure that everything's like aesthetically nice. But I just found that to be
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, we even saw, they vacuum their streets. They had a vacuum cleaner going down the
Oh
street.
yeah, yeah.
They're very
It's
particular
crazy.
with the cleanliness. Yeah.
But after you guys left, so Neil and a bunch of our friends had to leave early because of coronavirus. But after you guys left, they had to shut down that green patch area at NUS. but still, like every day there'd be workers there, like trimming the grass or like planting new flowers and whatnot. So
Oh
I was just like,
wow.
wow, that's crazy. Yeah. But best highlights for you studying abroad? What would you say?
Yeah, definitely. So Johnny and I went on a trip to Vietnam,
Yeah.
which 10 days in Vietnam, me and Johnny, we bound to have some fun things happen. And it wasn't just us, it was three of our other friends that came as well. Um, just an absolute incredible experience. I love that country. Um, but I'd have to say the highlight from it was when we were in Da Nang, which is a city on the coast, roughly like in the middle in terms of latitude. We rented these
Yeah.
scooters and we would do frequent trips 30 minutes south to a city called Hoi An, where we would go to our favorite suit shop. uh, and
Yeah.
we'd get fitted for these suits. And every time we came back, we'd try on the suit and they'd say, "Oh, come on, you want another one?" And they were so cheap but high quality that we bought 3 suits there. Yeah. So I think my favorite day was the day that we were coming back from Hoi An. We stopped at a beautiful place called Marble Mountain, where there's tons of cultural sites in it. Tons. It's a marble mountain, literally. So there was marble carvings everywhere. Um,
Yeah.
we got to hike up in there. Then we got back on the mopeds. Uh, Stop me if I'm missing anything. But then we went to a place that was up in the mountains. It was essentially a French village where we took the world's longest single track gondola to get up to it, and we were
Yep.
way up in the clouds, with just like beautiful sights of looking off a mountain into the clouds. And they had this hand bridge where it looks like 2 stone hands holding a golden bridge. We got to have a lot of fun out on that, take a bunch of pictures, walk through this French town that was just gorgeous, and
Yeah.
made it to a cafeteria where we got to drink a bunch of beer. It was a good time.
Yeah, the world's longest cable car though. Like I don't think people understand like we were in that cable car for what, 30 minutes or something
Yeah,
ridiculous like
had to
that.
have
It was
been.
just going on forever.
Yeah, and we're in the
Yeah.
clouds the whole time, so we never could see the top. So we had no idea how much longer we had.
And it was like at the top of the mountain it was so cold and then when we came back down it was like so hot. So it's like
Hmm.
crazy difference in like climate.
Yeah,
But
and
no,
go
yeah, that was definitely a great day.
yeah, going up, going through the Vietnamese jungle. Do you have fond memories of Vietnam?
Yeah, Vietnam. Vietnam was great. That's definitely one of the highlights of my entire study abroad semester. But I would even
Hmm.
say like we also went to Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia for one weekend. That was like the first trip that I went on with all of you guys. That was super fun as
Hmm.
well. Uh, but even just all like the random nights and the random things we did in Singapore was like pretty fun
Yeah.
because in Singapore they have like first of all alcohol is really expensive there because like the tax is crazy or whatever. So they had these things that were called like was it called liquid buffets?
Yeah. I had
Yeah,
look.
where you just pay like $15 as a student and you can just go in and just like drink as much as you want. Like we just go there on random nights, just chill, play cards, have fun with a bunch of friends. It was just great time overall.
Or
Yeah.
karaoke. I had a lot of fun at that. That was fun.
Yeah. Karaoke was
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
But it was so crazy because you guys had left because of the coronavirus situation like early on. But I had such a huge contrast in experience from the last month that you guys were there and the last month that you guys had gone, like had left Singapore because it was like
Hmm.
totally like nothing was open. We couldn't even leave our dorms. If we left, we had to like wear face masks. So it went from us, like walking through the canteen or the cafeteria that we had and being able to like recognize different buddies and like sit down and talk to them to everybody wearing face masks and you can barely recognize who someone is because their face is just covered up. So
Hmm.
it was ridiculous. It was crazy. What a contrast.
Yeah. Do you regret staying as long as you do, or did you like staying there over being back in Canada?
I mean, being back in Canada is nice just to like be with the family and stuff, but I feel like I still had a great time, even after you guys left. Just being in Singapore because I don't know. For me, I just love that like Asian country vibe, like the
Hmm.
temperature, the culture, talking to the stalls, stuff like that was just I don't know. I still liked it and it was cool. And I don't think I was mentally prepared to leave Singapore yet because it was a
Hmm.
sudden. urgency of, let's get out of here and leave Singapore. So I don't think
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
mentally prepared yet. It was like we were all just dropping by flies like one by one because we just like wake up in the
mm,
morning and have to check our emails and see, oh, who's getting sent back today or how many
yeah,
more cases today. It was crazy.
yeah. Every single day was a new email with some new news, whether it was, all right, now you have to take your temperature twice a day or you'll get expelled, or courses moving their exams to later dates or online. Lots of things were changing.
Yeah. I will also bring up something that was pretty interesting, which was how we found a newfound love with chess for whatever reason
Yeah.
in Vietnam. We just spent like countless hours just like playing chess till like 3 or 4 in the morning with like a few
Yeah.
of our buddies as well. But for some reason that just like stuck. I don't even know why. But that was great as well.
Yeah, chess was a lot of fun, and that came from, was that a Vietnamese market that you got that?
Oh
I
yeah,
think it was,
yeah,
right? Yeah, where a guy
yeah,
wanted $100, $100 US, for this chessboard, and Johnny talked him down to, what was it, 15?
yeah. Something
Yeah,
stupid like that.
yeah.
I
I
will say though, like I feel like in Vietnam, it's not as like tourist friendly.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, would you agree? Like
Definitely, there
everyone
were
just tries
definitely
to rip
parts
you
that
off
weren't.
there.
There wasn't, the negotiation that we saw in Kuala Lumpur. Which that might also be one of my highlights. There's a little place called the Pedaling Street Market in Kuala Lumpur, where the the night market, black market trade. I don't know if it's black market or not, but fake products, fake designer products everywhere. Just leather goods, Gucci, all the name brands, and you could get these products for so cheap if you knew how to negotiate. And Johnny knows how to negotiate. Oh my god, it is so much fun watching you haggle with these people, getting them down from like
Yeah,
$200 to $25. Just it is so much fun. It's an
yeah,
art,
and they had like
definitely
the
an art.
most like outrageous products that like just didn't even make sense. They had like LV Supreme Gucci collab gear, and it's like that doesn't exist. Like, where are you inventing this stuff from?
Yes.
Just like
Oh, it was so much
crazy
fun.
collab stuff.
They're just super big.
Talk to us about the part when we had to go back to the watch
The watch
collection
place?
place.
Oh my god, that
Yeah.
that was insane. So we're, like, talking to this guy who's got, like, a little table set out, and he's, a part of the street market, and he selling watches, and he said, "Oh, well, do you wanna see the back room? That's where we keep the good stuff." And we're with our buddy Angel, who's really big into watches, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, of course I wanna see these." Like, it's like, fake Rolexes is only the start. They've got, like, the really high-end watches, like Frank Mueller, Hublot, Patek Philippe, and we're like, okay, yeah, let's go back there. Angel comes and finds Johnny and I, and this guy's like, all right, follow me. Well, he starts to lead us through this like little back alley corridor where it's like sheet metal sides, and it's pitch black outside, so it's like getting a little scary. Um,
Yeah.
and he opens up like this steel door, and like starts to wave us in. And Angel was going in first, and he's like, "I swear to God, I thought I was gonna get murdered." It was terrifying. But we get
Yeah.
into this room where it's just filled with um, these fake watches that are just really high quality, and they go for 100,000 up to like $1 million for these watches, but they're selling them for $400 a piece. Uh,
Yeah.
Johnny was able to talk them down from 400 to 100, of course. So yeah, we had some fun with that.
They had that showroom was quite nicely set up too. Like, I was surprised. It was like a random little back room in some alley. They had a nice lights and
Yeah,
stuff in there, but
honestly, I
crazy,
felt
crazy
like
stuff.
that's what it must feel like at a real like designer store.
Okay, so I kind of want to switch gears now to some just general
Hmm.
fun hot fire questions. I'll just shoot some questions out at you, and then anything that pops your mind, just let us know. All right? You
Okay.
ready?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
What's something that you think is true, but the majority of people would disagree with you on?
Okay. Going back to the vegetarianism conversation we
Yes.
had, I think it's individual impact is pretty big. I think that one person has the ability to make a difference, especially in countries like America or Canada. I learned in one of my classes this semester in Singapore, actually, that the average American consumes something like 220 pounds of meat annually, while the world average is like 41 pounds annually. Um,
Wow.
so that's a pretty stark contrast. And think about the difference that it makes if one American goes vegetarian. That's five other people in the world going vegetarian.
Hmm.
That's a big difference. And 220 pounds, that's almost, was that like a whole pig almost?
I was just reading this book called Sapiens. It's actually a great book. I highly recommend it. But the author was just talking about how we're kind of in this age of like abundance, like obesity. More people die from obesity than die from starvation,
Mm,
which is just like an insane fact right now, like around the
wow.
world. So it's like we're
Yeah.
just over consuming things that we don't even need to, and we're just like deteriorating our planet. And like the
Uh-huh.
ending sentence to the book was something along the lines of like, what's scarier than, because like in the book he talks about how like Homo sapiens and humans at this point have pretty much evolved, at least on Earth, to a level of like godlike being because we can just do what we want and control what we want. And it was like the last sentence was something like, well, what's scarier than humans with godlike powers that don't know what they want and don't care for what happens to this planet? Which was just
Yeah.
insane because from the point of view that you're talking about with like pigs and cows and stuff, like we've literally turned these animals into machines where we try to
Yeah.
minimize the input to maximize the output, and it's like we don't even look at them as living creatures anymore, and it's just crazy.
Yeah. It's interesting to see how far we've come from treating them as companions to now, like you said, they're just a part of the machine. I could talk
Yeah,
about that all day, the way that animals are treated
yeah,
in different
yeah, because you brought
eras.
up a good point. Yeah, you brought up a good point. It's like, well, what is it that made us treat, dogs and cats and stuff in a different way than how we treat, you know, pigs or cows and chickens? Like that's a
Yeah.
quite a peculiar topic. So I wonder what was it about that? I don't know.
Yeah. And why are people
But
that do eat dogs or cats, discriminated against for doing such a thing when other people, the same people that are discriminating, are eating all different types of animals?
yeah,
Who gives
it's
the,
interesting
the say?
social. Yeah. I think you should read Sapiens because he talks about that a lot in the book as well. So I think you'd quite enjoy that book too.
Yeah, that sounds like a good read. I'm gonna make a note on that.
Yeah. Okay. Next question is, what are some of the successful habits you say you have that you feel like are conducive to your academic and professional success?
I'd say as far as academic, actually, this could go for professional as well. Like
Mhm.
when I'm okay, I'll give an example. When I'm doing homework, instead of starting an assignment one day and working gradually on it throughout the week, I will set aside time to complete the task at hand in one sitting. I think that way I have more efficiency because my mind doesn't have to catch back up every time I pick the task back up. And it
Yep.
allows me to free my mind of the thought of that project, declutter my mind essentially, which I think is really
Right.
helpful for me.
Sweet.
And that could be
Are
said the same
you,
about work projects.
yeah. Are you a big calendar user?
I've tried. I've bought calendars and I've started calendars, but I struggle to keep up with it. Yeah, filling it in. I am a pretty good mental organizer as
Okay.
far as like knowing when a task is due and um, time management, mental time management. I feel like I'm pretty good at.
Yeah.
So setting aside my
What?
day, honestly, like when I wake up in the morning, I know what I want to work on
Yep.
for the day.
Nice.
Mhm.
Nice. And you just keep track of all that in your head. Like, do you write it down like on a to-do list or anything? You're just really good at keeping track of it in your head.
Uh, Good at keeping track of it in my head. There
Yeah.
there are times where it probably would be beneficial to write down like longer term things. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
something I'm working on.
Cool. What's the best investment you've ever made under $100?
I'd say it's sad to say this because I lost it, but I had this rugged water bottle. Um, you see them everywhere, the stainless steel water bottles that are pretty big. I really think it's good to drink a lot of water, and this water bottle is like $50. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. Like Smart, one of those big water bottles. I did
Yeah.
leave it on the plane on my way back to America, though, so that's sad. I would carry that thing everywhere. Brought it to class every day, bring it to work every day, bring it on, any adventure we went on while we were abroad
Yeah.
because
Wait,
I do like to
is
drink
this
a lot of
the
water.
bottle that says like drink water, that one? The gray one?
Yep, yep, that's the one. Yeah,
No.
yeah, I know.
You left
I
it on
I
the
literally
plane?
set it underneath the plane. Yep. When I landed in Minneapolis, I was like, "Oh, you're kidding me. Forgot it on the plane."
Damn.
Sad.
Damn.
So I'm gonna have to get another one of those for sure.
So, another question that I have for you is, what is the impact that you feel like you want to have on this world, or like the legacy that you want to leave behind?
I think, something that it's been shaped by going to Singapore, is I'd like the
Yeah.
world to become more understanding of other people's lifestyle. I think people are, from different backgrounds, and people can't look at a person and say, "Well, you shouldn't be doing that because I wouldn't want to." So I think what I want to leave an impact, whether I do it because I have, the recognition to be able to say something powerful, or if something I did was recognized for something, it'd be expanding people's understanding of other people.
And I know that this is something we've talked about a lot in Singapore as well, but I just found it interesting to bring it up now. But if you had $200 million, actually, let's say
A billion.
$200 billion
Yeah.
burning in your pocket, 12 months left to live, you got to spend it all. What would be the first 3 to 5 things you'd want to spend it on?
Okay. Yeah, I really like this question because I feel like it teaches a lot about a person. One thing that I think, at least in the United States, is a major root of evil towards the general population is lobbying that's done by companies and corporations towards like senators and other lawmakers, which by doing so, the lawmakers uh, choose to rule in favor of these companies that are asking for favors that are often not beneficial to the planet or to the people. So I'd
Right.
like to see that end. It's kind of ironic, but I would do that through lobbying for a politician that would have the platform of ending lobbying. Yeah, so that'd be my first purchase.
Right.
The second would definitely have to do with vegetarianism, whether it's marketing for these up and coming fake meat products, which I think will be revolutionary in changing the way that people eat. Companies such as, do you know what I'm talking about?
A&W. Oh,
Not
I know
not
what
A
you're
and
talking about.
W,
Beyond Meat.
Beyond Meat. Yeah, yeah, that's the big one. So I think those companies are going to be really beneficial towards shifting the population. So I do a lot of investment in their marketing and research and development because there's still a long ways to go in creating meat that tastes or plant-based meat. And then third of all, I'd like to do something like ending world hunger, which I know you suggested earlier, but I don't know if $200 billion would go far enough for that. Um, so maybe after being in Singapore and seeing how clean everything was, I'd want life to be like that back
Yep.
home in America. So I'd fund projects to build really unique design buildings like Singapore has and maintain the
Yeah.
infrastructure like Singapore does because you really just don't see architecture or maintenance of public works projects like that here in the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet. This is kind of getting into like a future sci-fi world, I want to say, but what are your thoughts on, because I think I've read somewhere that people are starting to synthetically create meat in a petri dish, like from just,
Mhm.
I don't know, biotechnology
Like
purposes.
like the
What are your
cells are
thoughts on
growing.
that? Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
cells are growing.
Yeah.
Interesting. I think
Yeah.
if that can be mass produced in like the size of like what Americans are consuming now, I think that would be a good start towards getting people off of consuming meat. I don't know what like the nutrients are behind that or the health concerns, but if it's healthy and it tastes good, I think that's a great option. Anything, in my opinion, that brings people away from uh, taking the lives inhumanely from animals, because like a lot of the animal consumption we have now is uh, cruel, like these mass production farms. Actually, one thing that I think is interesting is a lot of people like to counter the fact that animal farms are so prevalent with saying like, oh, well, I only buy cage-free chickens or
Yeah.
free-range cows. That doesn't really like, yes, that is good for that purchase, but the fact is that 98% of animals, I read this in that book um, that I think I loaned to you briefly, the Eating
Yep.
Animals book,
Yep.
um, where they said 98% of meat consumed today comes from factory farming. So that pasta you get with meatballs at the restaurant or hamburger you get from a fast food chain or any restaurant, it's coming from a factory farm. So unless all the meat that you're eating is free range, then the bulk of it's still going to come from inhumane sources.
Yeah, and I think this was also from I didn't get a chance to finish the book, and I'm definitely gonna order it and finish it as well. But I think one of the things that the book was talking about was even these labels like free range. You think it's a more humane way for than animals, but like it's just semantics. Like I think in the book it was like free range sometimes even means that the cow or like the chicken doesn't even have room to like turn around in the cage that they're in. It's just like a
Mm-hmm.
definition. It's just all semantics, right? So
Yeah, marketing.
it's interesting to take a look.
Hmm.
Yeah, to take a look into things. It's like the same issue with companies that slap organic label onto a lot of products. Like people see organic and they think, oh, great, but what does that really mean? You know.
Yeah, really loose standards on what's organic and what's not. Yeah.
So before I go to my last question, do you want to tell the audience a little bit about where they could find more information about you or how they could contact you? Maybe leave your Instagram, Facebook, and whatnot.
Yeah, definitely. I'll leave my email as well. It's so my name is Neil Tyson. As you can see, I'm sure Johnny you'll post my name
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah.
And my email is just Tyson Neil, one word, at gmail.com. So just last name, first name. And my Instagram handle is Neil Tyson. So
Sweet.
feel free to reach out
Yeah.
with any questions or comments.
Yeah. I'll leave links to all of those down in the description below. So feel free to check them out. All right. My last question for you is if you could write anything on an online post where you could be sure that everybody in the world would be able to see it, what would you want to write and why?
I think after returning back to America and seeing like the judgment that people give to other types of people around the world, my post would be um, people around the world experience vastly different experiences from your own. So don't judge them based on your own experiences.
The Broaden Your Perspective podcast is meant to be a platform for anybody who has a story to share. If you want to come on the podcast for an episode to talk about your journey and experiences, feel free to reach out on Facebook, Instagram, or by email. Thank you for tuning in for another episode. If you enjoyed today's episode, leave a rating or review on whatever platform you're listening through. I would greatly appreciate that. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at Johnny_Sue. That's JONNY_HSU. And to follow the Broaden Your Perspective podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Instagram, and Facebook.